Today, I'm going to bring you along on a cinematic review of the brand new B55 Baron. They said Carenado couldn't top their last twin, but tonight, I think otherwise. That's right, we're going to be checking out everything on the B55 Baron. So let's get right into it. And here we are on the ground at Reno. I really hope she flies as good as she looks, because it looks absolutely stunning, especially in that hangar. But today we're going to be doing a short hop from Reno to Lake Tahoe, and of course in 2024. And that's because the B55 is a 2024 exclusive. So I'm expecting them to utilize all of 2024's features. So let's take a look at it. We'll just get the covers off here. And I'll see if I can get rid of these chocks. No, it doesn't look like I can get them from the back here. So let's go for a walk around the front and see what else we can click on. All right, and there's a pitot tube cover. Oh, okay. So if you get too close to it, teleports you under the wing to the other side. Interesting. There we go. Okay, pitot tube cover is off and the chocks are removed. So let's actually step into the B55. And one of the things I love here is we actually can walk onto the wing to get in, which is really cool to see. So let's go to started. She's really easy to start up. I've only had probably 20-30 minutes experience with this in the simulator, and that was just recording the cinematics in the hangar. But just following any kind of standard checklist on a piston aircraft, you can get it fired up. So I'm just going to chuck the auxiliary fuel pumps into high and put the beacon on. And then we'll just put the propellers into feather. And I'll just put the mixture at about 50%, and I'll also just bring up that throttle a little bit, and we can turn over the engine. Just like that, she fires up to life, really nice and easy. And the first thing you might notice is the panel shaking, which is really nice and cool to see. You can really see the vibration all through the aircraft. Might be a little excessive and dramatic in my opinion, but it's still nice to see. So now we've got both engines running. I'm going to crack on the alternators and we'll get some avionic power. Now we can customize the screens and choose different GPSs and different displays, but this is currently just the default. As soon as you start up the sim for the first time, this is what's installed in the aircraft, which is kind of like this retrofitted aviation pack. Of course, it's no G1000 or anything like that, but we do have the digital displays up front and we have multiple options for the GPS. At the moment, we've got the default Asobo Garmin ones, but you can swap out for the PMS package and a few different other options that we'll take a look at. But also, if you want to fly this as an older bird, you can absolutely switch it out for analog displays. But with all that said, I'm going to smash in a very quick flight plan, which is direct to Lake Tahoe. And before we go, I'll just do a quick flight control check. Just make sure all my controls are plugged in and working. And we're ready to go. The audio package on this aircraft sounds phenomenal, both inside and out, which Carenado has always done a somewhat decent job. I just can't put my finger on it, but at the moment, this one it sounds more polished. But nonetheless, let's jump straight to the runway so we can see how she flies. Alright, let's get straight into it. But I'll shut up for a minute so you can listen to the sounds on takeoff. Alright, so there's 80 knots. I'll just gently start pulling back. Now the first thing I'm starting to feel straight away is she's a little front heavy. And I guess the first negative thing as well, a really common one, but the trim feels extremely oversensitive. So I've just tapped my trim button on my yoke and it immediately kind of starts this oscillating effect as if I've put 50% of trim straight away. Other than that, first impressions for the most part feel really good. I don't have any experience in a Baron whatsoever. Other than the trim, it's not overly pitch sensitive. It's got some weight to it. It doesn't feel like flying a Cessna or an ultralight. And it did use up a surprising amount of runway. And I guess that's kind of because it's a piston engine aircraft. But for those who do a lot of backcountry and bush flying, definitely something to keep in note is it's not going to be great for very short runways, especially on gravel. But it's not exactly what the Baron was even really made for. It's kind of designed as this fast, sleek, affordable twin-engine aircraft, mostly for businesses and general aviation pilots. It's mostly used, at least in Australia, for people looking to get their multi-engine rating and instrument training and ratings, things like that. But of course, this isn't exactly A-to-A simulations, where it's kind of a study level general aviation aircraft, at least in my opinion. But Carenado are slowly making the push towards it. We now see things like an operative circuit breaker panel, different panel options for the aircraft, switching between EFD and PFD options, as well as different GPSs like the Garmin, the GTN and the GTX. Now of course there's a lot more to a study level aircraft than switching out GPSs and having a circuit breaker panel. I don't think we're quite there yet with Carenado to even think about it being a study level aircraft, but it's definitely getting a lot better, at least compared to the ones that we've seen in 2024, like the Saab and some of the other aircrafts. But another thing worth mentioning is this aircraft is career mode ready. So for those who like the default career mode, as long as you've got the correct ratings, you can use this for things like ferry flights and charter services. But you know what else you can do? You can join the Discord. You'll find the latest in breaking news in Flight Simulator. Not only that, but you can chill with other flight sim nerds just like me. Not to mention, we do have the best memes. Only the best. So make sure to join. Check out the link in the description. Back to the video. Now we're just crossing the halfway point in this flight, and up until about now I've been hand flying the whole thing. And it's really nice to hand fly. It's not overly sensitive, it does have some weight to it, more than I would have expected. I've got no idea if that's realistic or how it should be, but from a flight simmer's perspective, it's enjoyable to fly, and to be something that's just great for hopping around general aviation airports. But at the moment I'm trying to engage the Autopilot, and it's a really simple basic autopilot system, and I don't use a lot of autopilots in general aviation aircraft, but I'm having a bit of trouble getting the nav mode to engage properly. Now I've got the CDI set correctly, but it's not coming up saying it's in nav mode, it just says roll, which from memory just means it's holding the current heading, but it is following the nav. So I'm not too sure what's going on there, that could be user error. But let's jump to some movie magic, and I want to show you the night lighting on the aircraft. She looks absolutely amazing here at night, but there's a few things I want you to pay attention to. Specifically, look at the strobe. We've got the old-fashioned high-intensity flash globes, similarly seen on real strobe lights that are seen in nightclubs and things like that, but they look absolutely amazing. Not only that, but the rotating beacon on top of the tail looks incredible as well. You can see that the light will reflect onto the wings, the top of the cab, and the tail of the aircraft. And one of the things I love about this is the lighting's not overly obnoxious. They're not LEDs that are shining bright in your face all the time. And I think Carenado did a great job on the lighting here. And before we return to the approach, I just want to show off the icing effect as well, because this aircraft of course does have icing effects. As you can see, the icing effect is actually really cool here. It's really frosted up on the windows and you can see exactly where the heat pattern is coming from. And the effects are also really nice on the outside. While it's nothing extremely unique, they've definitely done a great job at showing where the ice builds up on the aircraft. We can see it's covered the nose, the cowling of the engines, and all along the tail. And of course, we also have the leading edge of the wing, also covered in ice. The visual detail that Carenado have gone to in this aircraft is amazing. It's great to have a good looking and performing twin aircraft in 2024. Something that would be really cool that I want to do is try this in VR. I haven't done it in this video, but let me know if you want to see more VR content and I can always make a video on it. But either way, let's get back to the approach. So here we are on the upwind leg. I'm back to hand flying and we've got a bit of speed to bleed off here. I wanted to go for a straight in approach, but I'm not exactly familiar with Lake Tahoe Airport, and there are some obstacles on the approach that I just want to check out and make sure that I could fly it correctly. I've had a good look at the tall trees just before the start of the runway, and I'm confident I can make the dive down and bleed off enough speed to touch down. Now obviously, because it took quite a bit of room to take off, I'm expecting the same on landing. So I want to make sure I've got plenty of runway to stop with. So we're just going to do a nice and basic pattern for the runway. I'm going to turn on my cross leg, we'll fly downwind of the runway, and then we'll turn crosswind and hopefully line up for final okay. I'm not using any charts for the approach or any GPS, I'm just doing this purely visually. So forgive me if I completely butcher this. So as I said, I need to bleed off some of this speed just because I don't know how long I'm going to have to slow down on the runway. So I'm going to lower the gear a bit early here just to help increase the drag. And as soon as you put the gear down, you can definitely feel the drag through the controls. Now sadly, I don't have any force feedback equipment. It's definitely on my list to get, but with that said, you can definitely feel the controls get a lot more heavy. It takes a lot more movement to get anything out of the controls. And as you can see on the downwind, I've come in completely crooked. Gonna be a bit of a close call, but we should have enough runway to turn in and make that final still. At least that's the plan I'm committing to at the moment. So as you can see, I'm just slowly turning around. I'm gonna try and line up as best I can parallel to the runway and kind of correct myself as we go in. Now it's pretty challenging at this airport. One, because 2024 is so amazing, especially with their trees. It really does a great job at covering up the airfield. And right on the end of the approach, we have some really tall trees that stick up, which will prevent us from getting a nice glide slope. So we're just gonna have to do the classic kind of dive for the runway bit and bleed off that speed and just try and touch down as smooth as we can. So with the plan in place, let's see if I can butter this bread and make a nice landing. There we go, not my smoothest landing, and we're a bit skewiff, but I'll take that. On the rollout here, something I'm noticing is the rudder is very twitchy. Now I've got the honeycomb Charlie pedals, and I've tried to refine them as best I can, but with 2024's horrible UI, it's hard to get the profile set right. So just know the rudder is very twitchy. But here we are at Lake Tahoe. We're finally down, and I've got a bit to talk about with this aircraft. Now I've done a full flight and I've had my chance to experience what this aircraft actually is about. There's a few things I want to chat about. First, I'll cover what is amazing. For a Carenado product, it is absolutely astounding. The visuals are amazing, the modelling is superb, textures are really nice, the sounds are great, and there's a fair bit of variety within the cockpit. We can change out different GPS units, we can change out the displays for old analog gauges. And there's a lot of nice features like the shaking panel, shaking needles, things like that. And the flight model itself is, in my opinion, not horrible. While it was nice to hand fly once you get some speed, I did run into some teething issues in other parts of the flight. For example, during takeoff, it was very sluggish to get off the ground. Now, it's not a horrible thing because I'd rather it feel more sluggish than a superjet, but as soon as I started using the trim to help bring the nose up, it suddenly shot up and then shot back down and kind of started this oscillating effect. In my opinion, the trim is just far too sensitive. The other issue I couldn't really work out was the autopilot. Engaging the nav mode worked, but it didn't come up on the autopilot unit saying nav mode was on. Now, I had the CDI correctly set and it was following nav. It's just, even though it was in nav mode, it still displayed roll. Now, I ran into another issue that I didn't show on this flight. I'll show you now, but the ground sounds when off-road are incredibly loud and out of place, which is a shame because the rest of the audio package is really good on this aircraft. It just feels like the mixing on the ground rumble was just set far too high. It's just blown out. While it's not the end of the world or a massive issue, it's still something that I would have hoped wouldn't have made it to a public release like this. I paid almost 40 Australian dollars, and that's pretty expensive for what you're getting, so I would have liked to see it be more polished and refined. But overall, to sum it up, it's an amazing aircraft. I had great fun flying it. It's just one of those aircraft that I can quickly jump in and have a great flight. It's not a huge study level aircraft where you can't take any shortcuts, but it's also not incredibly basic like a default FSX aircraft. Whether I'd recommend this aircraft to you really depends. If you're looking for something that's incredibly study level and a really, really polished off aircraft, then probably not for the price. But if you can afford it and you just want a great GA aircraft to go flying around in, then absolutely. It's a no-brainer. It's just on the pricier side in my opinion. But it also does come with some exclusive features like being able to be used in the career mode. Again, if that's something you're interested in, then definitely check it out. But that wraps up our initial test flight. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a like. Let me know down in the comments what you thought or what aircraft you want me to check out next. And if you could subscribe, it'd help me out a ton and I'd really appreciate it. But until next time, I'll catch you then.